Welcome to the What Are We Doing Here podcast, where we share the inspiring stories of two completely opposite women who overcame their unhealthy relationships with food and negative self talk and found a path to health and healing through self discovery and natural nutritional supplements. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Brittany, and today we're going to talk about an important topic that affects us all. It's rarely talked about or highlighted, but it's such a big problem. It's the presence of chemicals and toxins and the pesticides in the foods that we consume. We're going to explore how to reduce exposure, the significance of choosing organic, proper food preparation, and the role of grass fed organic meats in chronic disease and cancer prevention.
That's right. As Brittany and I have really been on these paths of health and healing, our relationship with food has been a big part of that. But for me specifically, after partnering with the company that Brittany and I have partnered with, I really gained a huge insight into the dangers of the chemicals and toxins that we're exposed to every day. And these are things that are in our everyday life. I mean, this includes personal care products like the paper towels, the toilet paper that we use, household cleaning items, indoor and outdoor pollutions, plastics, the contaminants in our water, exposures at your workplace, anything that's in the air. And we would truly be here all day if we went into all of the exposures that we are kind of exposed to. So what we really wanted to focus on today are the toxins that we ingest. What are we eating? So this is really important for me because I recently started working really hard at eliminating these things. And I actually this week shared like a big overhaul, like a grocery overhaul that was affordable for a family of four. You know, this is something that is so close to me. In earlier this year, I had a really good friend, 43, who passed away from colon cancer. Just this week, I have another very close friend who was diagnosed with cancer in their 40s. It's one of those things for me that it just is hitting home as I'm aging. And they say that it takes 20 years to develop cancer. Did you know that? We
No, I
all have
didn't.
an affinity. You know, we all have cells every day that could turn into a cancer. But it's the exposures, what
Yes.
we're exposing our bodies to, that really determine if we develop a cancer, we develop heart disease, we develop diabetes, we develop any of these chronic diseases. So, you know, we're told about a balanced diet, but we're not told about these chemicals. So
Right.
many of the conventional foods, and especially in the US diet, you know, they are laden with toxins, pesticides. And, you know, that happens in the growing process, you know, how we have to mass produce these foods and using the pesticides to try to increase that production. So these substances, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it does in the growing and also in the making. I'm learning a lot about fillers lately, and you may want to discuss that later, but the fillers in our food are so toxic.
Yep, absolutely. And so, really, we just wanted to talk about today how can we, there's no way we'll ever be able to eliminate exposure to toxins, but what are some of the steps that we can take to decrease our exposures? Because I'll be 100% honest. It was not until recently. I have a good friend who she always, when her girls were born, she was like, I'm buying hormone free milk, you know, organic. And I was like, Psh, it's so expensive. Like, you know, it's crazy. Food is so expensive. Family of four, we can't afford that. And so that was my mindset. That was always how I felt until recently. And, you know, it's been a big change for me. And so that's where we're at. So this is another piece of our journeys that's changing now. You know,
And I would say I'm learning. I learn every day from just, asking people around me, listening to Lindsay, listening to other doctors in the company talk, nutritionists. I guess I never knew the right questions to ask, but this is a lot of this is new to me. So I'm learning with you guys today.
yeah. So, how can we minimize our exposures?
Yeah.
One big one is choosing organic. And I know, again, it sounds like it's so much more expensive. But honestly, if you think about the risks of ingesting these pesticides over time, and it's hard because we live in a society of instant gratification. We don't think about 20 years from now
Right.
what this ingestion is going to be doing. Again, I said in the beginning, like I felt that way. But that is one of the number one is to choose organic. However, not everything is as important to be organic. So
Yeah.
there are some fruits and vegetables that are more prone to retaining the
Mm.
pesticides due to like their skin being thin and
Mm.
the higher water content. So it's actually, you can Google the Dirty Dozen.
Mm.
And I mean, Google Dirty Dozen organic foods. And those are like strawberries, because if you think about it, they're porous, the skin is thin.
Right.
We're ingesting the whole fruit.
Hmm.
Spinach, apples are actually one
Wow.
that is within the Dirty Dozen. And on the other side of that, I've seen different like numbers and different
Mhm.
ways that they've been talked about, but the clean 15 are ones that you can think about fruits and vegetables that have like a thick exterior. So like
Yeah.
avocados, it's thick, pineapples, um,
Corn.
watermelon, melons, yeah, those types of
Mm.
things that have oranges. It's
Yeah.
harder to get to the fruit that we're actually, or
Mhm.
the portion that we're actually ingesting. Bananas too. So if you
Yeah.
think about that, like the fruits and vegetables that you have to peel off, or there's a hard exterior skin,
Mm.
those are not as important to choose organic. Like if you could, awesome. But if it's a cost conscious
Mhm.
thing and you
Yeah.
have to choose what is the most important, that's what we're doing,
Mhm.
is really looking at that. Can we either cut out the fruits that are in the Dirty Dozen,
Mhm.
or if we're going to eat them or have them, they're going to be organic, and that's how we're choosing them. Have you heard of that, the Dirty
No,
Dozen, before?
absolutely not. Um, actually, when we discussed the podcast, which is very quick, I told Lindsay I'm not gonna know anything. I'm gonna have questions because I'm learning as I go, cleaning my eating up, as you guys call it, but I had no idea. I don't know that that stuff is readily available unless you're looking for it. And I was never the girl that was looking for it, Lindsay. So having somebody, I was ignorant about it. Having somebody to educate me, even when I wasn't asking for education, it helps.
Yeah. So one other thing, if you just are like, I can't afford to do organic, there's no way,
Hmm.
then at least soak your fruits and vegetables in a water vinegar
Oh,
solution, and that can help to dissolve off. And I'll actually, I took a picture of like we were soaking cucumbers, because even the organic stuff, it's still touched by people. It's still processed. It's
yes.
sat in trucks. It's in. So we soak all of our fruits and vegetables
Mhm.
in a vinegar water substance, and you can see the residue in the water
Mm.
after you've soaked them. So even if you're washing or just rinsing them off with water, it's not the same. It doesn't deteriorate that uh, the residue that's sitting on the vegetables like the vinegar mix does, and it doesn't make your fruits taste any different. Like it truly doesn't. So if you can't choose organic, at least soak in the vinegar water mix for um, 10 minutes. I think that's what we do, is 10 minutes.
So, you see it just because this is the first thing I thought of. You see like this pre-washed lettuce and this pre-washed all of these things. And we always kind of bring it home and run it underwater and pre-wash, but you still suggest even soaking that kind of stuff.
Um, so I don't do a lot of salad, I'm not gonna lie, but we do use spinach and kale, and
Mhm.
that, yes, but it's a lot harder and thicker.
Yeah, we
So
spinach
that's
is
a
big.
good question.
Yeah.
We'll have to come back to that,
Revisit
and we
that
can
one.
answer
Okay.
that. Well, we can put the answer in a comment, like what is the
Sure.
recommendation for lettuce? Because again, I'm new on this journey as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of those that I would be curious to know. I would assume that it would be fine because it's water based as well. And, but what you would likely want to do with any of those leafy vegetables, if you have a salad spinner, because once you soak them in the water so that they don't get really mushy, to kind of
Mm,
dry it off in the salad
yeah.
spinner.
That
So,
makes a lot of sense.
yes. So,
Stump the Lindsay day.
yeah. Um,
It's
but
hard to
yeah, I
do.
think that's big for the fruits and vegetables just because the way that they're grown, choosing organic if you can. And if you can't, make sure that you wash them.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, let's talk about the meat choices. This is another one. Go ahead.
No, I'm gonna have questions about the meats here. Um,
Mhm.
Not just because of what we're discussing today, but also like protein content. Would that be something you could answer for us today?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. All right.
As far as this was one that I always was like, why does it matter? Why does it matter?
Yeah.
And to be honest, if you think about if we're what you want to choose is
Mhm.
a like grass fed, organic, hormone free, antibiotic free beef,
Right.
chickens that are free range,
Mhm.
antibiotic, hormone free, and anytime that you can get as close to, organic and eating what is in their normal habitat,
Mhm.
chickens that are produced in a barn where all they are eating in this small
Mhm.
confined space is corn, and they're not really able to be in their normal habitat
Mhm.
and fulfill that cycle of eating, right? Like they eat the
Right.
worms and they eat the bugs, and
Mhm.
we're essentially disrupting their diet as well.
Right.
So we're eating corn fed beef and chicken if we're not choosing the grass fed,
Mhm.
organic, free range. So we're essentially what happens. You are what you eat. We are what we eat. They are what they eat. And so we're taking that food, the meat from these animals, and ingesting it, and again having these unwanted antibiotics, hormones. And I truly feel like these are disruptors to our systems. Like we've talked about this before. You and I, when we were young, we were on government diets,
Right.
like government assisted food. That was a lot of processed food that it wasn't fresh. It wasn't, it was the processed. I remember the government cheese. So, these are, it's hard because our bodies start being disrupted at a very young age.
I was actually going to
And
ask about that. Several years ago, it was all over the news about how, girls are developing faster and things like that. And does that carry over from what we're eating? Especially,
there are lots of research studies that do say that the hormones that are in the
mm,
food that we're eating, they do contribute to early onset of menstruation.
mhm,
It does affect how boys are, hitting puberty sooner, and they're growing bigger and taller
mm,
because we're being exposed, and our kids as they're growing are being exposed already to synthetic hormones in
mhm.
the meats and in the foods that we're eating. And
Yes.
so there are lots of studies that say yes, that is a contribution.
I will say too, I have a great neighbor. She has tons of chickens. Of course, they come to visit all the time. But the eggs that we get from her are so different than
Hmm.
what we see. Like, I don't even know how to explain it other than the composition once you break open the egg is completely different. There's
Hmm.
more of the yellows are bigger, the whites are thick. It's
Hmm.
so
Yep.
different, and I it takes less eggs than it
Hmm.
does from the supermarket to get the same thing. And I don't know how to explain that because I'm not the science one, the medical one, but I have seen it in action.
Yes. The nutrients, the density that you see of the yolk
Mhm.
in an organic free range chicken is bright yellow and the
Mhm.
white is thick. When
Yes.
you crack open a white bleached egg from the supermarket, the white is thin, it runs when you try to crack it open and fry it, and you can literally crack one side by side and just see the difference
Mhm.
in the color and the consistency. It's
Did
pulling
you
out
say
so much.
bleached? I'm sorry. Can you
Yes,
repeat?
supermarket. So this supermarket white eggs, they're bleached.
I can
The the
believe I
the
believe that.
eggshell is bleached. So think about that. When you're eating
Wow.
these eggs, don't you think that that bleach is going to seep through
Mhm.
the shell?
Wow.
So that affects the whole um, nutrient density of the egg. We're exposed to chemicals in some
Mm.
sort, the bleach from bleaching out um, the shell of the egg. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. It really is. So, again, I'm not perfect. I went to the store and, we still have some black bean chips. I have kids. It's really hard in the world that we live in, the society that we live in, to completely be able to tell them, no, you can't have chips. No, you can't have a cookie. No, you can't have all of these things, but limiting what I expose them to and teaching them. That's the big thing.
Yes,
Teaching
100%.
our kids why, not just saying, no, you can't have it. We talk about with our kids the long-term effects. And they don't care right now, just like I didn't care until a year
Mm-mm.
ago, or really with the toxins has been just in the last 6 months that I've really started cleaning things up. And so it truly is education. And these are not things that were educated in school. It's not anything that I was educated in, my medical training.
Mm.
None of that was taught. We have a very brief nutritional course, brief. It is not something that is focused on.
No.
So,
And
I
like I
mean, true.
said, sought after, you would have to look into that, and then you have to do research, and then how do you know who to trust, what to trust? Everybody's got differing opinions. So it is hard for somebody like me and even you to find good, solid info.
And I think that's true because I'll tell you, just last night, I saw two completely conflicting
Mm.
opinions. I watched a podcast and it was, you know, plant-based versus carnivore. And so it's really difficult. They both not fought, but they discussed and rebuted their perspective very adequately.
Mm.
And so I think what it came down to is just these things. Choosing foods that you can decrease toxic exposures,
Mhm.
chemical exposures, and whether you choose to eat plant-based and that does well for your body, because we do have an affinity to like insulin resistance, right?
Right.
And some people, their genetic makeup, they're going to have a um, higher risk of developing problems if they eat carbohydrates
Yes.
than others. And so I do think that from what I was listening to, it's really what serves your body well. When you eliminate things, does it improve? When you add things in, do you start seeing problems? And that's something that's difficult to do because we just wonder why we feel like crap all the time, but nobody's willing to take things out of the diet and see if it changes. It's
Absolutely.
run to the $4 billion business where we're a lifer at the healthcare clinic and try to be fixed.
Yeah, so it's no secret. I have a home based business and I pay $1,500 almost for my migraine medication. It's a lot of money out of pocket. That's after insurance. And my insurance is like $1,300 a month because it's private health care and with my health issues. Regardless, I started cleaning up my eating And so then when I would go somewhere and I would consume like pizza, so any kind of carbs, the headaches were coming back.
Mhm.
The dairy, my stomach was getting upset. So I started realizing I haven't had migraine medicine in 2 months because I
Yep.
know if I eat that carb, if I eat those funky, rolls that I want at the restaurant if we go out to eat instead of pushing them away, I'm gonna feel really bad tomorrow. So I mean, yes, 100%.
Can I just clarify? When you say carbs, let's
W Yeah, that's
define
my
that a little better.
ignorance too. Please,
It, but
because
but it's the processed because you
okay.
defined it. You said the roll when
Yeah.
the you wanted that roll. So that is a processed
Mhm.
carb because even people with insulin resistance, I mean, technically vegetables are carbs.
Right.
They have a lower glycemic index, but they still that is a carb that would typically do fine in your body. It's the processing. It's the
Yes.
chemicals because what
Mhm.
is there's sugar in those rolls. There's, pizza, it's processed. If you put sausage or pepperoni on it, those are processed meats with nitrogens and things that aren't they don't process well in our bodies.
Yes.
That's what causes the headaches.
And
So
they're
when you say carbs, I just wanted to
Mhm.
confirm that we're talking about processed foods
Yes.
versus healthy carbs.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you're talking about this because in my ignorance, you and I have discussed before, I think on the podcast even, not all proteins are the same.
Mhm.
Pepperoni is not a protein. Whereas in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to have pepperonis for a snack. I'm having high protein snack.
Yep.
I had to change my way of thinking. And the same with carbs. We're learning and yes, I 100% mean those bad carbs that are processed. That roll at Texas Roadhouse that I want 3 of when I sit down at the table. That is where I'm talking. So when I consume that, that's when I realized how bad I
Yep.
would feel almost immediately and it would considerably get worse until it was out of my system.
Yep.
So,
And so I think that that's a good segue into like sugar because I mean, just those rolls, if you look at how they're made, I mean, there is a high sugar content and, you
yep.
know, the dangers of sugar and sugar substitutes, they really do play a significant role in our health. And I mean, sugar comes in various forms. It's and it's linked to a host of health problems too. I mean, beyond the obvious things, obesity and diabetes, but even high blood pressure, heart disease, fatty liver. Like we don't think about that your liver is what's filtering all of those chemicals and the processed foods out. So those high sugar content, people are like, I never even have drank a drop of alcohol in my life. I have fatty liver. It's because of the sugar.
100%. Good thing is
Yep.
you can reverse it if you catch
Yep.
it. I've been
Yep.
there.
Yep.
So yeah, but again, it was because of the sugar. So I have experience here, not much, but that's where I was really hurting myself. I thought I brought my little packet in here. So I thought as a consumer, we go out and we go, okay, I can drink this, or this, right? You have choices. And I think, oh, it's zero sugar. That is going to be so much better for me than picking up something that has sugar. No. So I was putting the stuff in my water.
Mm-hmm.
About a month and a half into my lifestyle change, everything's going good. The weight wasn't really moving as fast as I wanted. Sat down with a nutritionist in the company and he said, what did you put in your water? Then I showed it to him and it had, I know I'm going to say this wrong, maltodextrin in it. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's somewhere closer to 100 on the glycemic index where sugar's like in the 60s. So it was worse for me than if I'd have sat down and drank sweet tea.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cokes. My mom loved her Diet Cokes. I loved my Cokes. Now that was years ago when I was teaching school, but now I'm learning like the diet is just as bad as the full. They get us with that no sugar. We're, healthy, no sugar, no cal,
Yep. And I mean, you can read multiple studies about sugar and how they affect not only diabetes and causing insulin resistance
Mhm.
and then metabolic disorders.
Yes.
We can't get away completely from sugars because the healthy sugar in fruits are actually okay.
Yes.
Honey occasionally is okay. It's the processing of the table sugar that's in our diets now. It
Mhm.
is different. It is different than it was 50 years ago.
Yes.
It is processed differently, and
Mhm.
the way that it is chemically altered, it affects our body and it affects our cells so much differently. So that in itself, just trying to cut out the table sugar, the
Mhm.
sugary cereals, the donuts as much as possible. Like I said, it doesn't have to be always. You can have a healthy, or you can have a planned indulgence,
Mhm. Yeah.
but for the most part, if that's what you're always eating and your body is craving it, basically, when you keep putting sugar into your gut, you're disrupting your gut microbiome. The artificial sweeteners also disrupt your gut microbiome. But I mean, they contribute to so many, like it alters your appetite regulating hormones. Again, leads to metabolic disorders. Um, and even both sugar and sugar substitutes have been linked to an increase in cancer.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of research that still needs to be done to fully understand like that connection, but ultimately they're chemically altered substances. Our
Mhm.
bodies are not designed to have those chemicals put in them and filtered out by our livers. And, it's just not good.
Yeah, I mean, we're filling our food is filled so that there's more of it. Is that correct? When I read that there's filler during the processing, is that what it means?
Yeah. I mean, think about if there's more bulk there
Yeah.
and the less substance, so they put cheap bulking items in there,
Mhm.
then they can sell more, make more money.
Right.
So, you
Yeah,
know,
I saw something the other day and it was like um a cup is the serving size of cereal usually. Most people end up going with 2 cups, and by the time you add the milk, you've already doubled the amount of added sugar that you're supposed to have the entire day with 1 bowl
mhm,
of cereal in the morning,
yep.
or some crazy statistics like that. I was like, "You have to be kidding me."
Yeah. So trying to change to something like, eggs, organic free range chicken eggs in the morning, versus the cereals. And, again, moderation when it comes to sugar consumption, like
Mhm,
opting for whole unprocessed fruit foods and decreasing our reliance on sugary snacks and beverages can help improve our whole health outcome. Like, I mean, it really is a conscious decision. It's an informed decision, and informing yourself with the knowledge is the first step. Understanding, reading food labels,
mhm,
being mindful, looking for organic, choosing whole foods over processed foods. The foods that you can choose in their most original form
mhm.
are best. If you could choose foods that look like they started, that's going to be your best choices.
Yeah, I saw something about, like, spaghetti sauce,
Hmm.
um, how and I mean, some of it's like this much of it sugar, half the bottle is added sugar, and so it's like when you look at that, like that's a quick meal for most families. Grab a box of pasta,
Hmm.
grab some spaghetti sauce, throw some hamburger meat in there. That's a quick meal for most families, and it's a good meal they sit down and enjoy. And we don't realize how much sugar we're
Yep.
consuming.
Yeah. So making your own
Hmm.
with tomatoes. And so this is something that I educate people who I work with is less than 4 grams of sugar. And that's high side.
Mhm.
2 would be ideal, less than 2. But if you can look for foods that have less than 4 grams of sugar, especially those pasta sauces, salsas, things that come jarred like that, um, that's going to be your best option.
Mhm. Yeah, I was looking at So I was looking earlier, 25 grams is what's recommended for women a day.
For an entire day. For an entire day.
That's and for us non-medical professionals, that's 6 teaspoons.
That's
Teaspoons. You
it.
know that it's
Yes.
tiny. It's
Yes.
tiny. One 12-ounce Coke has 39 grams.
Exactly.
I was
So
consuming
we
6 a day at one point.
we are grossly overeating
Yeah.
those sugar. I
Mhm.
mean, 25 grams for women. That's what I'm saying. So 2 to 4 grams max in a food that has added sugar. That's what you should be looking for.
2 to
And
4
I would
grams.
say just look at labels. Start arming yourself, reading the labels before you pick it up and take it
Mhm.
home. And that's what's going to help prevent chronic disease and support our overall health.
Absolutely. We've even taken to making like our own Italian dressings and things like that around here because there is added sugar in it. You
Yep.
just don't realize what you're getting until you read it.
Yep.
You got to check those labels.
Absolutely. Well, as we conclude today, I really just want to hone in on the dangers of sugars, toxins, chemicals, and pesticides on our health,
Mhm.
and just arming yourself with knowledge, being conscious of it, and truly just understanding that it may not be right now, but down the road, I mean, these are the substances that are truly causing us to be unhealthy. So
Absolutely.
if you
You know,
feel, oh,
yeah.
go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say it was very educational today. Normally we're a little more back and forth, but I feel like I'm learning every day, and we just want to drag you guys along on this journey because we have so many people asking, "How are you losing weight? What have you changed about your diet?" And just being aware. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, if you found value in this episode or you feel you know someone who would, please share it with them. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform. We will see you next time.
Bye.